AI is more profound than fire. Will take all of our jobs and will destroy humanity. Happy Friday. So it's clear that there's uncertainty around the impact of AI, even amongst the world's most influential and well-renowned industry experts and global figures. In 2017, Vladimir Putin said, "Whoever becomes the leader in AI will become the ruler of the world," with Elon Musk saying that this competition for AI will most likely result in a world war. A world war. Do we just move to the forest for a life full of solitude? Well, if we do, we most likely will have some interesting neighbours. But what can we learn from history? Throughout history, throughout all the innovations that's happened, there's been one constant: fear. Fear on the impact of jobs, society, and the future. And AI is no different. One of the key innovations from the fourth industrial revolution was the steam engine. Before this, horses were used to transport goods from one location to another, which was quite a slow and expensive process. Horses had limitations. You could only carry certain weight loads, you could only go for a certain distance, and they needed to be maintained to stay in good condition. When the steam engine came in, it transformed industrialization, not only in the transport industry, but also in mining and agriculture. The steam engine completely transformed the way in which people do business. It created more jobs, it created higher salaries, and it created a better way of living. In the second industrial revolution, one of the key innovations was new forms of energy: electricity, oil, and gas. This was pretty much the biggest impact on the modern world. One of these factories that created as a result of this was Henry Ford's factory, who created the Model T in 1908. What was special about this car was it was powered through gasoline. It was created on an assembly line within the factory. This was the first time that cars became accessible and affordable to the average person. These assembly lines allowed for safer automation of tools, machinery, and weapons, which all resulted in a better way of living. One of the key innovations from the third industrial revolution was digital communication. This forever changed the way in which we communicate, interact with each other, and do business. Computers were no longer something that just scientists used, but something that became part of our everyday lives. IT systems automated production pipelines and also created supply chain. Data became something that was hugely important and so valuable that it was actually more valuable than the products it was creating. And onto the fourth industrial revolution: IoT, cyber, big data. This was the moment at which AI became into our lives. Data became so important at this moment that it touched everyday lives. The convergence of the advanced biotechnology, AI, and robotics converged so much so that it caused us to question the very definition of life and consciousness. AI has advanced so far that it's gone beyond human conception. The things that took days, weeks, months, text, images, videos can be done now in mere seconds. And AI is advancing just like the steam engine, just like electricity, and just like computers did before, and will continue to go into the future. But AI isn't something that just happened overnight. For that, we have to go back to 1950. Alan Turing. Most people recognize this name as the person who defeated the Enigma code back in World War II. But in 1950, he proposed a groundbreaking question: can machines think? At this time, machines were something that were just performed calculations, essentially large calculators. And at the time, NASA even employed human machines, people, to do more complex problem solving, like the trajectory of rockets. So at this time, to even think that machines could get to this stage was groundbreaking. Although technology hadn't advanced to the point where he was able to see his theory through, he proposed a question and a game, the imitation game, which is now known as the Turing test. And this was a test to try to see, could machines show intelligence? A human interrogator would ask a question, and it'd get a response from a human, and it'd get another response from a machine. If the human interrogator thought that that response from the machine came from a human, Turing said that this was a state to show that humans and machines were intertwined. Although it got a bit of a backlash throughout the last couple of years to say that just because a machine could pass a test, it doesn't necessarily mean it could show intelligence. But this way of thinking formed the basis of what AI is built upon today. In 1955, John McCarthy, who is known as the father of AI, took Turing's work and his way of thinking and advanced it to the point where he coined the term artificial intelligence in 1955. 1 year later, he created the first AI conference, and 2 years later, he probably gave his biggest contribution to the community in the form of Lisp, the first programming language for AI. Now people had the ability to actually use AI and develop applications as a result. The conferences that were created as a result of AI were trying to focus on whether machines could think like humans, problem solve like humans, and also learn and think. The next form of innovation came in unimate robots. This was the first industrial worker. Up until this point, humans were working in factories in tough conditions and also sometimes in dangerous conditions. The robotic arm, which was a hydraulic manipulator, was now able to perform 24 hours a day without taking breaks. It increased productivity, increased efficiency. Also was able to work with some dangerous tools like die casting, bending materials, welding, and it was also able to work in some harsh conditions. At this time, people feared for their jobs, and in some cases even went in to try and destroy these machines. But over time, they realized that with these machines came more jobs, more opportunities. One of the next advancements was Eliza, who was the first chatbot, or chatbot as it was known back then. This was in the style of a psychotherapy. Physiotherapy, you're looking a bit stressed, we'll give you a massage. That hasn't happened yet, but it probably will. But a psychotherapy style conversation. You would ask it a question, type it in, and it would respond. And at the time, this was groundbreaking. People thought that they were actually talking to a human on the other side of the machine. These all formed the basis of the innovations to follow. Over the next couple of decades, AI saw ups and downs. There was an AI boom. With the advancement in expert systems, machines were able to do role and rule-based decision-making. Deep learning allowed for machines to start learning from the mistakes. This saw the first autonomous drawing application and also the first autonomous car. Government started to fund R&D centres. Private investors started to back startups. AI conferences popped up around the world, and the skills of technology, computer science, and science became highly sought after. But unfortunately, the computers just weren't able to handle these expectations. They just weren't good enough at the time. So government started to pull funding, investors started to pull their money from the startups, and AI went through a bit of a dark period. But in the background, companies were still innovating. Companies were still working in the background to try and increase. Around the 90s, at the start of the 90s, computers became strong enough to be able to handle machine learning, and we saw healthcare industries and finance industries adopt AI technologies. One of the biggest breakthroughs came in 1997, and on a chessboard. Machines against humans. It wasn't just a chess match. Garry Kasparov at the time was well known to be one of, if not the greatest chess player in the world. Chess was a game known for problem solving and really expertise in understanding your opponent. They matched up Deep Blue from IBM with Garry Kasparov, and spoiler alert, Deep Blue won. This was a huge advancement in the area of AI, and people really started to understand how powerful this tool could be. It could generate 200 million potential positions a second and try to understand what the next best move was. This completely transformed people's minds. People became optimistic about the future of AI, and this kicked off a wave of generations of innovation afterwards. At the same time, this was getting widespread publicity. Other things were happening in the background. Microsoft released the first speech recognition software. Although quite simplistic at its time, people had to train their voice. It didn't recognize some accents, and also it didn't do well with background noise. But it formed the basis of the AI assistants that we use today, like Siri that came in 2011, which formed the basis of Alexa, came afterwards. We were now able to connect with our IoT devices, turn on our heatings, look at our data externally. We now use these AI assistants to schedule meetings, set reminders, and to ask them questions. The next large advancement was around robotics. We started to see Kismet, who was the first robotic styled person who could actually show emotion. It had eyes, had eyebrows, had a mouth. It was able to communicate with people, show empathy, and have a styled conversation with them. This formed the basis of what we see on the right-hand side there, which is Sophia from Hanson Robotics. This is the first humanoid. Became a celebrity, was on talk shows. Jimmy Fallon was on the news, gave presentations. It was able to communicate, and for the first time, machines had a face. We could actually communicate, talk, have a conversation, feel empathy, feel emotion, feel intelligence directly from a machine. The next advancement in robotics was navigation. At that time, NASA had sent 2 rovers up to Mars to monitor the planet. With a 25-minute or so delay from the time at which you could communicate with rovers, it needed to be able to autonomously look at the planet without human intervention. It was able to monitor the terrain, avoid obstacles, and understand what the next path should be. This had formed the basis of what we see on the right-hand side from Boston Dynamics. Robots can now dance. If anybody's interested in what song they're dancing to, it's Do You Love Me? Anybody know who sang Do You Love Me in 1962? The Contours, just in case anybody was interested. But not only can they dance, they can work in factories, they can lift heavy machinery, heavy materials, they can avoid obstacles, do obstacle courses, they can work alongside humans. For the first time now, we're starting to see human-styled machines being able to actually perform decent-styled work in factories. Over the next couple of years, we saw a big increase in AI being used in gaming, social media. AI started to look at the importance of data and personalization, with the likes of Netflix predicting and recommending the next movie to watch, Facebook starting to predict what you want to look at next. All of these social media and gaming industries started to really recognize that data was the bedrock and the foundation of what AI was based upon. And hyper-personalized results came as a result. One of the next biggest breakthroughs was in 2016 when AlphaGo played Lee Sedol, who was the world champion at Go. Go is a 3,000-year-old board game and is well renowned to be the pinnacle of human thinking. A lot of the moves are based on intuition, experience, understanding of the game. This was something that's just so much more beyond chess. Chess has a limited amount of moves, and it's a strategic game that can be based on different types of situations that you would come across. Go has an unlimited or almost unlimited amount of operations. So this wasn't something that a machine could just brute force its way through. I had to learn the game and understand. What was key about this win was it didn't just beat a player. It actually done it in a way that showed creativity. It made moves that the Go community had never seen before. This caused us to question, has machines and AI got to the point where it's shown intelligence? And now we're on to ChatGPT. Most of people that you ask that haven't been involved in AI throughout the years, when you ask them what is AI, they'll say ChatGPT. What ChatGPT gave us is accessibility. It gave us context. For the first time, it remembered what we asked it, and it continued on the conversation. We saw students use this to complete their assignments. Writers used this to complete their books. Everybody was able to use this to complete their resumes, understand what to do next, have conversations, feel important. ChatGPT gave AI and brought creativity into our lives. And not only that, but allowed us to be creative while using AI. AI was now in the consumer's hands. AI has advanced to the point now where we can use it to move forward. But with that comes some concerns. Is the data accurate? What happens with the data that we use? And who has ownership over what it creates? Some of the privacy concerns that people are facing at the moment is we're constantly online. We're constantly being looked at from a lens of a camera. It's estimated that we are caught on camera over 300 times a day, whether that's from our IoT devices, webcams, dash cams, moving into stores. People say that this is invading our privacy. Other people say that this is allowing us to have a better life. They're using our data, our movements, to predict what we want to do next and show us what we should be buying and should be watching next and should be listening to. If our freedom of choice is taken away from us, are we ever given the opportunity to look at something new, buy something new, hear something new? Where this could potentially get to, this is a concept called the game of life that was over-exaggerated a couple of years ago in China, where there's a social rating system. People initially get a score. If they perform good, say for example, if they give money to charity, the score goes up. If they're involved in criminal activity, the score goes down. They could be controlled in terms of what they can purchase, where they can go. Again, this is a concept, but it shows the potential concerns. The monkey selfie. It's a sad state of affairs when a monkey can take a better selfie than you can yourself, but that's the world we live in. This is a macaque. There's an interesting conversation about ownership here, and a non-technical example I want to start off with. In Indonesia, a journalist was trying to take photos of a macaque, and it came over, stole the camera, took a selfie, and the journalist found this photo on his camera when he was going through it and published it in a book. What was important about this was Wikipedia took this photo, used it online, and the journalist actually went to court with Wikipedia saying that he hadn't been asked to use his photo. And this was a big court case in the sense that he wanted the acknowledgement, and Wikipedia said, well, you don't own the photo, you didn't take it. So it caused a big animal rights group came in, wanted the monkey, the macaque to be the sole owner and copyright for the photo. But it causes this interesting concept of who owns AI, who owns the material that's developed using AI. Brings us on to a more AI-related version. This is a piece of art developed by AI. It was taken from an open source piece of code, which is out in the public. A group took this, trained it on 100,000 different paintings, and generated this painting. The important thing here is this went on sale in Christie's in London for almost $500,000. This caused controversy in the industry in terms of who owns this. Is it the developers who created the codes, or is it the group that took this code, fed it with the training data, and generated this AI? A more morbid example, if an autonomous car unfortunately has an accident or potentially kills someone, who's at fault? Is it the manufacturer of the car? Is it the manufacturer of the sensor? Is it the driver? When AI is creating all this content, these are things that we need to be aware of. The data challenges are something that people need to be aware of. AI relies on data. Not a lot of people understand how to get to the point where the data can be used. The understanding of a data-first mindset or a cloud-first mindset obviously will help with AI, but if you're not in that situation, the first thing is the objective identification. So you need to understand what is your purpose of wanting to use AI. How do you get your data into a place to be able to use it? How do you get it accessible and secure, and understand how to integrate it within your business, and to be able to be in a position that that data then can be used to apply AI to? Sometimes you'll come up against cultural resistance. For humans, at the end of the day, we want to do the same thing. Some people do want to do the same thing over and over again. They don't like change. They don't want to come up to a point where potentially their jobs are at risk. There's all these potential concerns. But as you see in the majority of history, all of these concerns resulted in more jobs and a better standard of living. And the data overload and trust. Sometimes people have so much data that they actually don't know what to do with it. AI is allowing us to ask questions, to understand the next steps, understand what we should do, how we should form our data, how we should use our data, and AI is there to be used to help us use AI. So where are we going next? The fifth industrial revolution. Some of these we're already doing, but they're going to be amplified over the coming years. We're going to see augmented intelligence, which we're already seeing robots in factories working alongside humans. We're going to see this more and more as we move into the future. We're going to see doctors working with AI machines, trying to identify, diagnose in real time people's conditions. During operations, understand what should happen next. You could work with architectures to try and understand blueprints, the challenge of the blueprint and what that building is going to act like throughout weather conditions. AI will allow you to create buildings that can withstand some of the elements of nature. Hyper-personalization. I've already talked about some of the social media that are really trying to personalize people's experience. Spotify, what you listen to next. Netflix, what should you watch next. These are going to become closer and closer to the body. We're going to start to see ingestibles in healthcare that can monitor our conditions from the inside, talk to our wearables, and give a hyper-personalized healthcare. Every individual piece of healthcare will be for you and you only. Everything that we see online, we interact with, will be for you and you only. Everything will be tailored for you. And cognitive systems. These are systems that can learn on the fly, that can continuously monitor their behaviors, monitor their outputs, and become better and better over time. Think of autonomous cars, are great at performing under strict conditions, but if you go to the back roads of some of the west of Ireland, you're going to find that autonomous cars don't know what to do. They don't have the single white line down the middle of the road, and they don't have anything that they can rely on. So how does systems get to the point where they can monitor and continuously improve? This is what I like to call from prompt to product. At the moment, ChatGPT, you can ask it questions, it'll give you a response. You can ask it another question, it'll give you a response. We're going to get to the point where you ask it to build you a product, and it can run through all the steps. The context window is the prompt. At the moment, there's limitations, and as I said, it's a back and forward style conversation with ChatGPT. We're going to get to the point where a likes of a ChatGPT or an AI agent can start to feed the answers into the questions, and you'll get this recursive improvement. It'll be able to take prompts, go off, run tests, run examples, take the outputs, improve itself, and then feed that back into the question. We're going to see collaborative AI agents. These are individual pieces of AI that are designed to do specific tasks. They've been trained on data, and they're really good at doing individual things. These are going to be available for people to use. And what's going to happen is these can start collaborating with each other, like you would build a team to build a business. These AI agents will build their own team to do everything from the research, the deployment, the testing, the understanding of what to do next, reach out, purchase whatever the product may be in order to get to the point where you need to do. And then that brings on to the third part, programming. At the moment, we're seeing AI agents being really good at programming. From the infinite context window in terms of being able to recursively get better, from the collaborative nature that they can work together, to the point where they can actually create code, meaning that these AI agents can actually, from a prompt, build a whole product, get all the parts, understand the testing, understand what needs to be done, and feed it back into the system. Where does this bring us? This brings us to a point where these machines are building products, working together, and are able to infinitely handle data. They can start communicating with each other. This is an example from, I think it's 2011, 2017, I'm not really too sure, from Facebook, asked two chatbots to talk to each other and negotiate trading hats and balls. And as you can see, at some point, they started to create their own language. No one could understand what they were saying to each other, and they had to shut it down. So at that one point where machines can build products, write code, and do everything themselves, at what point will we get to where we can't understand what they're doing? And at that point, AI is more profound than fire. AI has taken all our jobs, and AI will destroy humanity. I leave that for you to decide. Thank you.